is always going to be concerned about his eyes and what he can do. I think one of the things that they can do is, listen, can we compromise on this? Can you give me, an hour or so that we can go to this party, or we can go to the pool, or we can go to the beach, and we can start assimilating back into society together and do things that we like to do together. And we'll maybe she will find a very remote part of the beach that you can go to. I don't know where they live, but they can go to a place where they can enjoy the beach for what it is, but not be surrounded by all of the the girls playing volleyball and all the different things that you normally see.
So maybe avoid Daytona on spring break.
Yeah, that's in my neck of the woods, and that's a huge issue.
Yeah, so maybe go to a more family-friendly beach.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe choose a more family-friendly beach that's a little more remote and not quite so surrounded by all the college students in bikinis playing volleyball, right?
Exactly. And you and I talked a little bit earlier, and I said, the one thing that's never a problem for me is to see the girls in their thong bikinis, because to me, that totally has a different perspective for me. When I look at that, I don't go, oh, I want to give myself to fantasize about that or something along those lines, because modesty was always what was very sexy to me when I was growing up. And so when I saw the girl in the turtleneck sweater or the plaid skirt, and the black panties, or whatever, not panties, but the pantyhose, the collegiate, girl of the 80s and
like black leggings or black tights.
Yeah, not the leggings, but the
tights.
But they were fully covered the feet or whatever. But so that was the stuff that was always attractive to me, and not even necessarily from a sexual standpoint. Although in my addiction, I would tend towards the thought process of that. Eventually, the fantasy machine would kick in, and I would give myself to that. But the thing is, since I don't know anything about this gentleman's background, I don't know if he did have an addiction issue with sex, with pornography or any other kind of sexual outlet for him.
From what he told me, he had some experimenting, but not to the extent like that you would call it an addiction, like it was in your case. Where
okay.
It was, yeah.
Another avenue that I would come at it from would be, why does he feel he has to do this? Is it a white knuckling type of situation where I've got to do this in order to stay pure? I've got to do this in order to honor my wife. All very noble concepts, but they can tend to lead you down into a place of kind of legalism. And if he's coming at it from, a Christian standpoint, if he has a Christian background, faith-based background, a lot of times, if you have that legalistic type of background, you will tend to feel like I can't. And that will end up plaguing you instead of what you get to do, right? Yes. I think I might have said this on your show before. Regardless of what level of involvement we've gotten at, one of the things I talk about with people who do have the addictive nature and do have an addiction with this is that you don't have to call yourself an addict the rest of your life, but you will have to call yourself a target. If you let Christ come in and heal those wounds and heal those areas of your life and bring you out of the slavery of addiction, you don't have to call yourself an addict anymore. Christ has told us, Galatians 5:1 says that it's for freedom that Christ set us free. But it says to stand firm and not let yourself be brought under a yoke of slavery again. Originally he's talking about the law versus grace. Yes. But the principle is there that in Christ, we have been set free. So in the cross, Christ set everybody free from every sin that there could ever be imagined. But in 2022, we still sin. So what we have to do is we have to reconcile the cross and to today and enter into the freedom that Christ has paid for us. And so if you consider yourself a target or an addict, the reason you do is because it's the approach to how vigilant you are. As an addict, you're vigilant out of fear. I hope I don't do this again. As a target, you understand that there is a real war out there and that Satan knows your weakness, but you're vigilant out of faith, saying, I don't have to do this again.
Oh, that is so good. That's so good.
I think his approach needs to be, I know I can't live in a world where I'm not going to see, women who are attractive to me and beautiful to me. And that's one of the things we have to reconcile a lot of times within our married relationships is we know that there's people who are attractive, and we know that women alike will look at a man in a certain way, and a man will look at a woman in a certain way. And there's a sense of attractiveness. There's kind of a template, that we
Yes.
have built in our minds over the times that we've been alive. And we say, oh, that, if I look at a girl and I say, oh, she has, the long brown hair, and she has a certain facial structure, and she has a certain body structure, that's always been attractive to me. Well, I can say that's been attractive to me, but I don't have to camp there, and I don't have to fantasize over it. And certainly, as much as I applaud the guy for wanting to keep his eyes pure, just like we read in Job
Yes.
31, where he says, I like, he's touting off his righteousness to God, but he says, I've even made a covenant with my eyes, not to look at a girl, a virgin. But what he was saying in that scripture was, I've made a covenant with my eyes not to look at them with lust,
Right.
not to just not look at a woman, right?
Right. Sure.
And so the difference is I'm gonna see women wherever I go. If I go to the beach, I'm gonna see them in their bikinis. If I go, to the store, I'm gonna see them other ways. They might be just as attractive in the store as they are in the beach. But have I allowed the healing and the freedom of the Father to come into my life and bring me up to a level where when I look at that stuff, the voices in my head aren't saying, come on, man, let's think about this, let's do this, or whatever. Can I look at them from a place of love, just like Christ did?
Yes.
Christ wants to get us to a place where, it says he was tempted in every way known to man, but without sin. So obviously, if he was tempted in every way known to man, there was probably some sexual pursuits there. Probably, in whatever position he was in, women gravitated towards him because he was the strong,
Yes.
sensitive, godly man. And he had some charisma about him and something special about him. And there was probably many opportunities that Christ could have just like broken the covenant and just went off with a woman. I don't know what it looked like back then, but it says he was tempted in that way. So, but he didn't have to worry about that. He literally could embrace the moment with the people, but still stay pure. And that's what God wants to get us to. So if there's fear or legalism that's kind of attached itself, and you think, I just can't do this, I just can't do this, I just can't do this. Well, Christ has shown us that you can do this. And you don't want to put yourself into a situation too long. You might have to test the waters a little bit. Okay, let me go to the beach for a little while. And then if I start to go, listen, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, then make that known to your wife. But at least take the step to integrate with society and not to isolate from them.
I think that's such a good point. And we know that Jesus did not isolate because he talked to the woman at the well. He was protecting the adulterous woman. So, I mean, he had interaction with women that other men were really avoiding. And so we know that he was not avoiding, but he was interacting with women that the Pharisees were avoiding. But so I
Very
think that,
dangerous.
and I think that's very dangerous because of the pride that comes along with that. I also think it's very dangerous to have shame when you see a beautiful woman, because if you see a beautiful woman or a man, in my case, if I would see a handsome guy, I there you bounce your eyes. You don't stay looking and gawking, and you don't let your imagination to basically undress them, because like you said, it doesn't matter what they're wearing or not wearing. If it's like a string, thong bikini, no matter what they are wearing or not, it's going to be, it won't really matter if you're going to undress them with your eyes. And
Right.
I was noticing or thinking about recently, and noticing when I was at Six Flags, there was these families of Muslims, and as I was just recently informed by a missionary that primarily worked in Muslim nations. He said that the sexual perversion is greater than we have here, even in the States. It is greater than. Well, that is really interesting to me because their women are all completely covered. So clearly
Right.
that is not the way to have purity. Because no matter whether they're completely covered or, like you said, wearing a turtleneck or wearing a thong, if you're going to undress them with your eyes anyway, then the problem remains. It really is, it's a problem in your own heart, which has to be addressed. And then I was also thinking about the, as I was thinking about kind of the overcorrection and the legalism, and really something that I think is worth noticing and even talking about is with the religious trauma that has occurred from the purity culture that began to really come into existence in the 70s with Bill Gothard and the Institute of Basic Life Principles, the
Right.
IBLP. And so these people that are ultra conservative, homeschooling, wearing long skirts and long hair like the Duggars, and
Hmm.
the women, I mean, they weren't even, these teens are not even allowed to go to youth group, not even a Christian youth group,
Right.
not even go to church together, or not even go to a Christian camp, and heaven forbid, never go where there would be quote unquote like mixed swimming,
Yeah.
so, like, they were just not allowed. And you know what? People who have come out of this religious well, they call it this IBLP. People who come out talk about the trauma. They actually call it a sex cult. Now, that is their words. I wasn't in this, so I'm not judging it. I'm just saying their words are, it was like a sex cult, because even though it was ultra pure and purity was constantly being preached, what was also taught is that this is all men ever think about. So it's like,
Right.
well, this, if this is all men ever think about, well, then what does that mean? What is that saying about men?
Yeah.
That's pretty degrading. I mean, number one, women don't want to be sexualized. We don't want to be looked at in a way where we are objectified. But really, what is that saying about men? And I promise you, and I talked to my dad about this, I promise you that my dad doesn't go to the beach and um, lust over the women that are in bikinis. Not even if we're in Brazil. Not even if we're at, which we have been. We were at a beach together in Rio. And my dad and I had the freedom to walk along the beach and to talk about the Lord, and to talk about our relationship, and to talk about the revival that's happening around the world, and talk about what God was doing there in Rio. I mean, there were women there, but they're in the background, and it's not that your eyes don't see them. If they walk past you, they do, but you're not looking at them. So there's that ability to sort of bounce your eyes, but it's not a cause for lust. And I had the same experience in my own life, where I began to go minister to women in the strip clubs. And so
Hmm.
I have no history. I've never to this day even ever seen pornography. So I have no, my my eyes have not looked at pornography ever. Okay. But then
Good.
I started going with a group of people. So I have the opposite experience that you have, right? So I began going with a small group of people to minister to women in the strip clubs, and to just give them a goodie bag, and to let them know that if they would like help in any way, shape, or form, that I was there to help them. And so
Mhm.
we would take a goodie bag with some lip gloss and earrings, and hairspray and fuzzy socks, and give them this gift bag, which also had an invitation to Wednesday night dinner. And so they would come to Wednesday night dinner, and then we could share with them people who had been in the sex industry and who had become born again Christians and come out of that industry, they wanted to go back and help rescue the women who sometimes were there because they wanted to be. Most of the time, they did not want to be there, but they were sucked into that lifestyle and then they got stuck there, or they were trafficked into that lifestyle. So we began
Right.
to help them. But this is interesting, Maurice. So I could go into a strip club at midnight on a Friday or Saturday night and literally not be affected. Now, of course, you're seeing women were the ones that were the dancers, but
Mhm.
you're seeing men. And I would connect with in order to get in, of course, I was talking to the management and asking them if I could take these goodie bags to the dancers. Well, never one time, ever one time did I slip or have nasty thoughts or disgusting. I did not slip into any sort of nastiness in my brain. I looked at these girls in the eyes, and I mean, I got a lot of naked hug. That's true. I looked at these girls in the eyes, and I was able to. I mean, it didn't affect me. So I know that it is possible that you can be in a situation on the beach and not be affected by what is around there, because I went to the most extreme situation and I
Mhm.
left unaffected. And I left brokenhearted, but I left unaffected as far as the temptation in my mind. Now,
Right.
again, that's not a struggle that I had had in the past. So maybe, maybe if I'd had that struggle in the past, not maybe, but definitely if I'd had a struggle in the past of sexual addiction, I would not be wanting to go into strip clubs to share the gospel, because that would be a
Right.
trap for me. So I understand the wisdom in avoiding those places like the beach, or like nude beaches for sure, or strip clubs whenever you've had sexual addiction in your past. But
Mhm.
to put all the safeguards, but not to go an extreme way where you depend on total isolation for your self-control,
Right.
because that's not freedom. And I love that you said this is not I'm not a recovering uh sex addict. I'm recovered. you
Right.
know,
Right.
that was then,
That's
this is now,
that's the
and that's
misnomer.
not
That's the moniker that the world puts on you, and because they have for the past 70 some years, since like Alcoholics Anonymous and things like that were formed.
right.
But and it was all, and I get it. Structure and accountability are the two things that an addict needs, because he just gives himself to the whims of his own emotions. But the bottom line is, there is a place of freedom. There is a place where you can walk out of that. If that's not the case, then ultimately sin has not been judged effectively on the cross,
Right.
because it still has a hold over us that we can't break yet. And Christ said that's not the way it was. Like on the cross, everything was broken, everything was shattered, every curse of sin was broken. So you actually do get to walk out of that. But you have to be vigilant from a place of recognizing that if I've had this problem in the past, and the enemy knows that I've had this problem in the past, then I recognize I got a bullseye on my back. So I am going to be cautious about those areas I need to go
Sure.
into. But the difference is, I can't do this in my own strength. I have to do it with the ability of Christ in me. And if I'm a Christian, I have that afforded to me. The grace of God comes into my life, like in that um, obscure book, but not in your family, Titus. Um, Titus chapter 2 talks about what grace does,
Yes.
and grace actually teaches us to avoid all of the fleshly lusts of our life. So it actually comes into our life. And if we give grace the ability to do the work in our life, then we will have an authority and a power over that. And we won't have to say, no, I have to do this all myself, because then it's all about trusting in you and not trusting in what God can do through you.
That's interesting, because even in the language of the purity culture, I need to save myself
Hmm.
from impurity, save
Yeah.
myself for sex until marriage, save myself. It's like, we really can't save ourselves. It's really not a thing. And
Right.
we've got to look to Jesus to be our savior and his grace. And I was talking about the purity culture, and this is what happened, is because of this ultra extreme that I do believe was rooted in save yourself. Look at Josh Duggar, ended up, molesting
Yeah.
5 people,
Yeah.
going to prison, and Bill Gothard, I think 34 women, were allegations against him. So clearly they were not even able to save themselves because
Right.
they tried. I mean, like, these are well-meaning people that tried to save themselves by avoidance, by
Yeah.
wearing, long clothes and still trying to save themselves in this way.
If I could have saved myself, I would have done it and not drawn out my addiction for 35 years. I mean, I'm still not even at the age where that's half my life. So over half of my life was given to this addiction and an attempt to make it right in my own ability and in my own strength. And there's a great book out, if anybody's interested. It's called Grace-Based Recovery by Jonathan Daugherty. And it's an amazing book that is the basis for the workshops that we do for men who are struggling in their addiction. And if I could take just a couple of minutes here, because the interesting thing is, this is such a fresh.
Well, let me
it's
tell
been
you,
around.
Maurice, tell us about this when we get back from the break, because we're going to take a break here in 10 seconds. And I want to give you a full several minutes to talk about what you do, what helped you, how you are helping other men, because we want to leave today giving people hope. And so that
Yes.
people also have hope for their future, that they can go to the beach with their family without being overcome by lust. So, all right, thanks, Maurice, and stick with me. I'll be right back after the break on the Her.
At Romika Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logoed designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Romika Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion, or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
You're listening to JoCo Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Her Show. JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 365 on the TuneIn Radio Network. So to listen or watch, simply go to tuneinjoco.com to choose where and how. The JoCo Community Radio app is now available for free on Android and Apple devices, so simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more on jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. So reach out to your Texas sales rep, Nona Reed, at 844-839-4245. And I'm Trina, and this is the Her Show, Home Experience Radio, helping you to make your home a place of love and peace. And so I'm a pastoral counselor, and this week I had a few questions, and there were some extreme situations. One where men just cannot control their eyes, and they're always lusting after other women, which is very, very destructive and problematic in their own life and in the life of their marriage. And then the extreme other opposite, where a husband is refusing to go to the beach or a pool or even to any pool party when women might be dressed in bikinis because he is worried about lust. And so his wife was distressed because she was hoping that they could go together to enjoy some summer leisure activities. So I thought that I would invite Maurice Crane on today because he is a recovered sex addict and not recovering, recovered. And he has learned how to how to embrace grace and to be recovered and be in and around women that could be attractive but not go back to the addiction. So you've done that and you help other people. Maurice, tell us what has helped you and how you're helping others.
Well, it's really interesting, Trina, because I still think even to this day we don't have a full understanding of what grace really is, and I think it's becoming more and more apparent through a lot of different people who have had some real breakthroughs and real revelation.
Mm.
But applying grace to our life is so foreign because we can tend to say, "I have to do this myself. I got to fix this myself. I got to make it right." And guys themselves are fixers, right?
Yes,
We
yes.
just we tend to want to fix the problem and try and make it go away as best as we probably can, because that's a really good part of being in a relationship with somebody. If there's a problem, you can make it go away.
Mhm.
But the real issue is this type of stuff just doesn't go away. You just can't fix it. You just can't make it go away.
Yes.
But there was a man who made it go away, and he died on a cross 2,000 years ago. And because of that, he gave us this amazing gift of grace, which is, starts out as undeserved kindness. But
Mm.
it's also, like it says in Romans, that his kindness is what leads us to repentance, right? It leads us to leave behind the old life and embrace what Christ has purchased for us on the cross. And so that's this beautiful display of love that God has given us. And so I became involved with a ministry called Be Broken. They're out of Texas, out of San Antonio, and we do workshops all throughout the year for people who are struggling with sex addiction, unwanted, unhealthy compulsive sexual behaviors. And they come from all over the country, down to San Antonio, down to Orlando, and also in Pennsylvania. And they go through a weekend workshop where they begin to understand maybe some of the causes. Well, what are some of the issues that maybe had happened earlier in your life, and you gravitated towards pornography or prostitution or other sexual outlets in order to cope with some of the pain, in order to escape the pain.
Mhm.
And they're absolutely this incredible times. I just love being at them every time I get to go and meet these guys and be in the trenches with them and help to pull them out.
Yeah.
And so, but the underlying factor of these things is some of the stuff that I haven't seen other places, and it's a very grace-based approach to allowing Christ to come in and heal the brokenness, but also then take the stigma and the sting out of the shame and the fear that goes along with having been addicted for so long like that.
Yeah.
And then realizing that he is replacing all of that and bringing you back into alignment with who he created you to be. And for men, I always refer to them as a prince in the kingdom, because in Galatians 4, it says, if you're a son of God, then you're an heir. And Jesus even told us, don't you know, guys, it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And that never changes, even though we are active in our situations and our addictions. The desire for God to want to give us the kingdom never changes. He just wants us to be free so that he can truly trust us with it. And the interesting thing is, we were talking a little bit about this before the break, is there's an approach to overcoming this addiction, or there's an approach to overcoming the fear of even falling into this addiction by kind of trusting in our own strength and our own ability to do it. If I just do this, it'll go away. If I just do that, it'll go away. And the enemy is persistent, as well as your past. Your past is persistent in trying to keep you under its thumb. And your brain is persistent. Hey, listen, this is what you told us you want to do. This is how you handle stress. This is how you handle shame. And you have all of that stuff working against you. And then there's this beautiful, beautiful, glorious gift of God called grace that comes in and has the ability to completely obliterate all that and realign you with the purposes of God. And so really quick, I just want to go over, this is kind of like our kind of like our underlying theme. We contrast what it is to have performance-based recovery versus grace-based recovery.
Oh,
And
that's
really quick, I'll
good.
go down these points, because when we're relying on our own strength, it's performance-based and it becomes about us. When
Yes.
we're relying on the grace of God, it becomes about Him. So performance-based, these are really quick things here. Performance-based recovery, your personal value fluctuates based on your behavior.
Yes.
Whereas in grace-based recovery, your personal value is constant. Like, you're going to feel bad about yourself. You're going to feel worthless about yourself if you fail. And you're going to think you've done so many great things if you do better. And you're going to have this, this bounce house, type of approach to life, where things are going to be good and then they're going to be bad and then they're going to be good and they're going to be bad. And that's not
Yes.
how it is with grace. It's
Right.
constant. Your value never changes just because you mess up.
Yes. Right.
Confession punishes bad behavior by a start over mentality. Confession explores those mistakes so we can learn and grow from them. We always say, look, if you're at mile 10 of the marathon and you stumble, you don't go back to the registration table. You get up and you keep running again.
That's right.
And that's what grace allows us to do. But so many people say, well, I got to reset my sobriety date. Well, I got to go back and start all over
That's
again.
so
No,
good.
you have this cumulative gift that you can give to the Lord
That's
by
so
having
good.
stayed clean for so long. But if you do relapse in any way, shape, or form, you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. You just get back up and keep running.
I love that.
Accountability. Accountability is a tool to control or force behavioral outcomes. In grace-based recovery, accountability is an opportunity to build others up in truth and love. Performance focuses on behavior over and above the emotional. Grace-based recovery allows for a safe exploration of wounds, shame, false beliefs.
That's so
The
good.
last three, real easy. Performance-based recovery, performance leads to pride. We talked a little bit about that before.
Yes.
We can really depend upon ourselves, and then we get prideful about it. And then what goes after pride? The fall.
That's right.
In grace-based recovery, grace leads to humility.
Yes.
In performance-based recovery, performance focuses on me. Grace shifts the focus to God and to others. And lastly, in performance-based recovery, we're there to manage our sin, where grace sets people completely free.
Yeah.
And that is the underlying current of how grace coming into your life can heal you, can take the shame away, but also take the fear of failure away, and completely revolutionize the way that you approach life.
Yeah.
And for this gentleman who is very worried about being in an environment where he is going to fall is understandable.
Yeah.
But Christ has also given you the ability to rise up above that, to take authority over that aspect of your life and not keep you segregated from life. How are you going to live a life that is going to be free, first off?
Yeah.
But second off, how are you going to show, the world that Christ has brought freedom into your life and continue to tell the gospel, if you're going to continue to isolate and be worried about places that you could go that might compromise your
Yes.
stance?
Right. And I do want to say, there is, I am totally supportive of men being very cautious about where they position themselves. And if there's an environment that is particularly sensual, then you do need to watch, like you say, who you're there with. And I was just telling these gentlemen, focus on your wife, focus on your
Mhm.
family. The focus is, the other people sort of fade into the background because you're so focused on the people that you're there with. And I just want to say, women, dress modestly, wear a cover up unless you're in the water. And it can be cute and it can be adorable. And I don't mean that it needs to be, a full length anything, but you don't need to be showing your whole body to everybody.
Right.
It's just like, there really is not a benefit in that. And I think that it is classier to I think it's much classier. Also, I'll just tell you what I do. I wear swim shorts or a swimsuit that the bottoms come all the way down to be sort of like shorts. Now they'd be short shorts, but at least I know that my bottom's always fully covered. And I
Right.
always make sure that I am fully covered. Now, that doesn't mean that just because I'm fully covered, that no men could lust after me. Okay. They still might. However, at least I've done my part because I really want to do whatever I can to be a good example to young kids, number one, and to honor my husband, number two, and to honor the Lord, number three. So I do dress modestly, even if I am hosting a swim party, even
Mhm.
if I am at the beach or whatever. But I want to be cute and I want to be attractive and I certainly want to be appropriate. But I'm not going to 100% avoid. And it's not my. I can't help it. It is not other. What men think about me is not my problem. You
Right.
know,
Right.
that is their problem. And but I am going to do my part to at least be a good example to others and to honor myself by not looking like a skank. I don't want to look that
Right.
way, but
You know,
I'm also not so afraid that I totally avoid swimming pools and beaches. I mean, that's just, I think, an extreme. And I want to be able to enjoy God's creation of a beach and water. I think water is the most calming, beautiful, peaceful thing. And,
mhm,
so I think that it's very important, especially when you're married, to honor yourself, to honor each other. But even if you're not married, I think you need to honor yourself. I just
mhm.
don't go to an extreme place of legalism with this because that shame based thinking is equally as dangerous as well, I don't know about equally as dangerous, but anyway, it's dangerous. So I don't want to go there to shame based thinking at all, at all. Just want to do my part.
There's a no, and that's great that you do that. And to be honest with you, it's wonderful to hear a woman say that, speaking to other women, because a guy can't say that. We are always treated with contempt when we kind of put that request out there. Because like, what, you can't handle it? What, are you a sex addict? What, are you a pervert? We're like, we're like, no, like that's not why we're asking you to do that. We understand what our draw to women is, and
Well,
it's very
and
visible, right?
that's right.
And
And I
and
think
we
we
and
need to
we
take some
understand that we're not trying to make you
responsibility.
change your life, alter your lifestyle just for us, and have you turn out looking like you're an Amish person or something like that. It's not. We're not trying to force you or pigeonhole you or anything. We're just asking for like a sense of modesty, and because we recognize that we do have a propensity. I mean, Trina, for the past 75 years, we've been groomed, by this guy named Hugh Hefner, uh,
Right? Right.
who put and it's no fault of the young child who can't make sense of all of this, who gets his brain hijacked when he first comes in contact with
Yes.
the Playboy or
Yes.
Penthouse
Yes.
magazine, or even the
Yes.
worst stuff that's around today with the computers and the internet
Yes.
and the smartphones. When I fell into it all, it was a page out of a magazine,
Yes.
because I
Right.
couldn't go. I was too young to go to the movie theater, and I didn't even know about it, but I was 11 or 12.
Sure.
But you see that, and you see that at the perfect time in your life when your hormones are engaging and you're becoming this now sexual creature, and the whole thing is, as much as I know what I did was wrong in my later years, I had no clue what was happening in the formation of this addiction. And so I'm a victim. I'm groomed. All men are groomed. We understand that when we see something like that, we're going to have a tendency. Probably 95 to 99% of men are going to have a tendency to to look at a woman that way, very visual, and start to enter into a lustful mindset. And if there's a balance that we can bring to that, it would be super, super helpful. But there's kind of a rise up of women today who are fighting back against being objectified, but you find them doing it in these ways of, like, walking down the street nude, right? Or
Right.
like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? Look at my breasts. They're just there to milk babies. What's the problem? And they're getting so angry at us, but they don't recognize the effect that us being groomed as children has had. And when we look at that walking down the street, we tend to objectify them if we haven't had the renewal and the revelation of Christ come into our life. And even if it has, it's still a huge struggle for us. The one verse that comes to mind, though, is something that I think grace brings to the table. Is It's not what goes into a man that makes him unclean, it's what comes out. And I think to myself, when the Pharisees were yelling at Jesus' disciples because they didn't ceremoniously wash their hands, which was going to do any good anyways, right?
Right.
It's not antibacterial, right? So, but they didn't ceremoniously wash their hands before they sat down to dinner. And Jesus said, listen, it's not what goes in that makes you unclean, it's what comes out. And so the ultimate defense against all of this that we are engaged with in our world is having the right perspective and allowing God to bring that healing and allowing God to do the work in our lives that gives us the strength, gives us the power, that restores the authority in our life that we have over that, to say that you don't have to have this place in my thoughts, like 2 Corinthians 10:5. Like, I take every thought captive and I make it obedient to Christ. So all of that stuff that's coming into my body, I don't have to accept it. That's not the sin. What I tend to do with it because of how I am is potentially what is going to be the sinful response to that. So we need to allow God to completely set us free. That's going to be the only way that we can engage with society in a way that keeps us healthy and wholesome and respectful.
I would like for women to admit that there is a difference between looking beautiful and sexy. There is a
Yeah.
difference. There is a difference in a swimsuit that is beautiful and sexy. There is a difference in your attitude when you have a beautiful attitude or a sensual attitude. And we need to take responsibility for our attitude and for the way we dress. Sometimes we can dress modestly, but then have a sensual, seductive attitude. And
Right.
so we've got to take responsibility for this, because what we are doing is we set a trap for a man, and Proverbs warns women about being seductive, and it warns men about falling into a trap. And so this is not just about location of where there's water, like where there's swimming pools and beaches, but this is about the attitude of our hearts, that regardless of the location, whether it's at church or a strip club, it's a matter of what is happening in your heart. But I do want to encourage women to take personal responsibility, and I tell teenagers that, girls, to cover up, watch what you are wearing, and whose eyes are you trying to attract, because you're trying to attract the eyes of a hot guy that's your age or maybe a little bit older, right? But you know
Right.
what, you're also attracting the eyes of the dirty old men that are also at the beach, or the dirty old men that are also in town as you are walking around without enough clothes on. And so you have to take some personal responsibility and choose what you want. Do you want to be classy and beautiful, or are you trying to be trashy?
Mhm.
Because there's a difference. And the truth is, everyone knows the difference.
Right. And the difference is, it's about me, 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 me. And that is what gets us into so much trouble. We are focused on ourselves. Even as an addict trying to break free, focuses on his own strength, or he increases his addiction by wanting to fulfill his own needs. He doesn't get in touch with his own needs or why he has these needs. He just says, I have to find that fulfillment. I've got to, I'm needy, I got to fulfill it. But on the other side, with the women, dressing modest and making sure that they understand that that's important, it all comes from that place of like, well, I want to feel this way. Well, I want to feel this way. Well, I want to feel this way. There's so much objectification. I want to feel like a girl. And so this whole balance thing, I think it boils down to just respect.
Yeah.
And honoring each other.
Yes.
And recognizing the reality of who we were created to be. Okay, God made me a visual person as a male, so I'm drawn to you from a visual sense. It doesn't mean I don't have an emotional response to you, but it does mean that initially, in priority, and primarily, I should say, is going to be the visual draw for me. And for you, the primary draw, what's the word? The primary draw for you. I'll get it. It's easy for me to say. I get it. That you have a draw that is it doesn't subtract any kind of attraction that you might have for a man. But there's this: is he going to take care of me? Is he going to be able to nurture me? Is he going to be able to protect me? Is he going to be able to provide for me? Not that you have to go like he's going to do everything and I'm going to do nothing. But there is that.
Yeah, our core needs are different. We're attracted to different things. That's true.
Right.
And
but it's recognizing that reality and respecting it instead of having to fight against it.
I think it's so important to do what you said, to be careful. Be careful.
Right.
And otherwise you can really crush someone if you are not cautious and careful with whatever it is that they're going through. Honor them. Be curious instead of critical. Like, really, truly ask. If you're a couple and your husband might be like this guy, or maybe he's the extreme opposite, like the other illustration that I gave. But, be curious. Ask them what it is that you can do to help them, and what it is that they would be willing to do to get help. Maurice, will you go ahead and give my listeners the contact info for the
Sure.
recovery workshop that you were mentioning?
Yeah, you can find it by going to bebroken.com. Just bebroken.com. And in there is a wealth of resources with that ministry. And all you have to do is go to the men. It breaks it down between men and women, and then other resources. If you go to the men, you'll find a thing called Gateway to Freedom. And Gateway to Freedom is the actual name of the workshop, but it's kind of the the primary ministry that comes out of Be Broken.
Okay,
so bebroken.com. And then mine, of course, if you want to talk or do anything else, my ministry is called thesilentaddiction.com. Make sure you put the word "the" in there, thesilentaddiction.com, and then you can contact me personally as well. So, but we have lots of workshops coming up. Like I said, the next one coming up in August is going to be in San Antonio, and then in September we'll be back in Orlando.
Thank you, Maurice. The struggle is real. Marriages and the breakdown of marriage and family is just so common. More than 50% of all marriages will end in divorce. And that's in the church world as well. That includes people that are trying to be pure, or maybe people who even grew up with the purity culture, and still there's such a breakdown. And people who are cohabitating, the breakdown is between 60 and 70%. And then, of course, is just as high like that with second or third marriages, or even beyond that. So we know that the breakdown of marriage and family is the number one reason for mental health problems in our world. It is the number one reason. It is because of the breakdown of marriage and family. It is destructive to people emotionally and to their children as well. And so, this is why we want to talk about these topics that really do affect marriage, because sexual perversion in any way, shape, and form is absolutely destructive for marriages. So we have to talk about it, and we can't take matters just into our own hands. We need help, and we for certain need help from the Lord. And I love the points that you made, because God's grace is sufficient. It covers it all. So when we really trust Jesus to be the glue that holds our relationship together, and we trust the Holy Spirit to help us make the adjustments that need to be made in our own lives. So if you're a woman, maybe you need to make an adjustment in your own life and dress classier and cover more. And if you're a man, maybe you need to make an adjustment in your life and call for help.
Right.
Call for help, because you're not alone, and we're happy to help, because nobody can do it on their own. And I love Titus chapter 2. The men are supposed to help. Like you're a man, you're supposed to help guys that are struggling with this. And I, being an older woman, I want to be able to help the younger women to love their husbands and to love their children and to be keepers of their home and to honor the Lord with our bodies and with our behaviors and with everything. So I think sometimes we really overcomplicate it, but it's really not that hard. And the point is that Jesus loves us, and God is good all the time, no matter what. And we need to just keep on keeping on, right, Maurice?
That's right. Just do it, man. The war is real. Choose your side. Live accordingly.
I love that. And yes, there are certain things that we've got to be extra careful about. So
That's right.
thanks for
That's
joining
right.
me today, Maurice. God bless you and your ministry. Keep up the good work, okay?
You too, Trina. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was a great discussion, and I just am hoping that this was very helpful for my listeners that are just struggling with modesty in marriage and what it means. Um, it's a real important topic. God bless you guys today. I'll see you next Monday. Hugs and high fives.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Hey, travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Accelerated Graphics and Signs, 101 East Renfro, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, can handle all your graphic needs. Need a banner or promotional products for your business? They got you covered. T-shirts and caps for your group. All you need to figure out is if you want them screen printed or embroidered. How about some slick graphics on that hot ride to make you stand out from the crowd? Accelerated Graphics and Signs can handle anything you throw at them. Located at 101 East Renfro Street, Sweet C in Burleson, Texas, go in and see them. Call them at 817-991-0523 or reach them on the web at www.acceleratedgraphics.net. They are loud and proud and want to serve you. Accelerated Graphics.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest